This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Thanks for being with us today. Julie Zahn is the executive director of the Shepherd's Inn in Idaho Falls. You may have heard of the organization, you may have not, but today we want to tell you a little bit about the Shepherd's Inn. You actually just had a birthday, 20 years old.
We did.
For those people that have never heard of the Shepherd's Inn, what are you? What do you guys do?
Well, we provide free and confidential support to young women, sometimes young couples, that are trying to work through decision-making with their pregnancy. They realize maybe they need help outside of their own resources. Shepherd's Inn started 20 years ago, and it was a maternity home, and it was in Roberts, Idaho. We have since moved to a smaller facility in Idaho Falls, and we are not providing residential care anymore. But we've expanded services. We serve a lot more clients now. We go into both of the alternative high schools here in town, Emerson and Lincoln, and provide support groups there.
You say facility, but it's a home. In fact, I had a hard time finding it a few weeks ago. It's a home in a neighborhood. It doesn't look like a care center or a medical clinic. It's a house.
Yeah, it is. And one of the reasons that we've chosen to remain in this house is because we feel like it offers a real cozy environment. When we moved from Roberts to Idaho Falls, we were still providing some residential care. So we purchased a home in a neighborhood. But even after we quit offering the residential, that facility is paid off. So our home is paid off. And we're able to use all of that space to provide services for our clients. So we have an office, we have a counseling room, and we have a large boutique where we store all the baby items that our young families might need. And we do have staff that live in an apartment in the basement of the home, and they keep the home, maintain the home. And we hope that when people come in, it's just kind of a welcoming, not a sterile, institutional kind of a setting.
Yeah, it is when you walk in. So you don't get any federal funding.
We do not.
You were part of the original group that started this 20 years ago, right?
Yes.
And why? What inspired you to get involved in this group?
Well, there was an incident in Idaho Falls, a tragic incident, and it was a young woman who was pregnant and kept her pregnancy a secret from family and friends. And I don't know if we'll ever know the full story, but when she went into labor, she gave birth to her baby, and the baby was abandoned in a dumpster, and that was in 1998. And when that news story hit, it, of course, rocked the entire community.
Did the baby die?
The baby died. And they did find out later who the young woman was. And it is not just her story. It's the story of many people who, they don't know what to do. And it's not the only, since we've been doing this for these 20 years, there were babies that this happened to in Pocatello and several in our community. And so you hear that story and think, well, is there something that could have helped? And so a woman named Sheila Powell said that it was what jarred her to actually take action. She had lived in many places around the United States with her husband in the military, and she'd been involved in volunteering with maternity homes. So she decided this is the time and this is the place. And she was compelled to start a maternity home without really knowing what that meant. But she asked a lot of friends, some professionals in the community to come together and put together a board of directors. She raised money, so we did it kind of backwards. She was able to raise money to purchase the home and then put together the board of directors. Then we began to receive training and had, policy and procedures set up over the next few years. But we had our first girl show up on the doorstep as soon as the community heard that we were a maternity home, and it is in Roberts, Idaho. Wow. And Roberts is a very small town. This is, some people know it as the Stoker home, so it's a 9,000 square foot home. And that's where Shepherd's Inn started. Her heart was to have a maternity home outside city limits, so it was kind of secluded and safe. So we stayed there for 7 years and grew our program, got as much training as we could from other like-minded organizations, nonprofits, and started begging for funding, got a lot of grants, and then developed a real strong group of supporters and started having fundraisers. So our funding sources are about 60% from just individuals and some individual businesses that give maybe monthly maybe just annually. So that's about 60%. 35% is hard work at fundraising, and then about 5% is grants.
Only 5% from grants?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So over the 20 years, how many women have you helped?
You know, I wish that I could give you like a number, because it's more than just the girls who have stayed at the home as a maternity home or the girls who come now, because often our appointments are a phone conversation, it's sitting over coffee, and they just have questions. They want referrals. Sometimes we can't offer the services that they need, but we are in this amazing community where we have community partners that we can say, well, this is the organization that can help meet that need. So sometimes we're just the facilitators to help them find that. Sometimes a young lady just wants to talk, maybe once or twice, or maybe she and her boyfriend want to talk, or her husband. So some of them are very, once only. Some girls have developed relationships and we still hear from them, 17 years later. Yeah. When we had our birthday party, we heard from one of the young ladies who had her baby 17 years ago and sent us pictures. So
of her now teenage daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have a pretty neat video that shows the scope and the span of kids over the years.
What are the circumstances behind most of these situations? Or I'm sure it's so varied, but are a lot of them young teenagers that are scared, that don't want to tell their parents? I mean, what type of situations are you guys dealing with?
We don't have an average age. We've had clients that are as young as 15 years old. We've had clients that are 29 years old. Referrals come from a lot of different places, Nate. So doctors, churches, those people that maybe the family would go talk to. School counselors have been a resource. Law enforcement. We have some young ladies that for part of their probation, maybe they're required to come to us. We've had a few girls who actually were not ordered to go serve jail time when we were a maternity home if they would stay in our maternity home. So we had probation officers and their entire court system working, but they wanted to keep them out of jail so they could have their baby outside of that circumstance. I think a common thread is more often that the pregnancy is a motivator. So there may be a lot of things going in their life, but suddenly when you realize I'm pregnant, it raises questions that you didn't ever have to ask before. And you come to a place where a lot of the girls have come to this point of maturity saying, I need help of some kind. And so that's when they start reaching out. They might find us on Facebook or word of mouth, or maybe their parents help them find us. And they'll come and just say, we just want to know how to be good parents, or we want to know how to continue our education, finish high school, and still be a parent. And so our program is, we offer like a menu. So you come for an interview and our counselors evaluate, maybe what their greatest needs are, if they're a good fit for our program, and then we offer a menu of these are services, this is curriculum we have, let's figure out what works really well for you. What are your goals, and how can we help you meet those goals? So our program is really client-focused, and it can be adjusted to each girl's needs. Some girls will come to us, when they're 7 months along. Some come when they're early in their pregnancy. We don't often have girls who are not telling their parents what's going on. We have a lot of high school girls, but it isn't limited to that. And we have a lot more couples than we used to have. And we do a lot of sitting down with, the young man and the mom. And the girls are staying with us longer after the baby's born so that we can support them with the parenting too.
Do the clients pay anything?
They never pay anything. So it's, as I say, free. And when I say confidential, so I wouldn't name names here. Yeah. When I speak of stories, it's kind of general. Some of our girls are very open with their story. They allow their pictures and their baby's pictures to be on Facebook. But from the very beginning, Shepherd's Inn felt like if we were really going to be a nonprofit, that nonprofit needed to stand in a way that our services were offered free to our clients. And so for many years, even the counselors that provided all the help one-on-one to our clients, they didn't even receive a salary. So it was all completely volunteer. You know, we have volunteers that help with the facility and other things. Of course, our board of directors is volunteer. We do now have 2 amazing counselors, and they earn a salary. Yeah. I say that cautiously because they sure don't earn what they would if they were working out in the real workforce. But our clients can come and they receive, you know, all the care they need and referrals without paying anything. But we do have what we call our Earn While You Learn incentive program. So I think having a program that is free of charge is good, but we want the girls to feel a sense of accomplishment and real dignity in saying that they've earned things. So every time our clients come to us, they earn what we call Earn While You Learn bucks. It's basically like a voucher. Mm-hmm. And they accumulate those. We're very generous with them. They come to an appointment, they do their homework, they watch a video, and they earn this, and then they can go shopping in our boutique. They can purchase baby items, baby clothes, whatever they might need.
Oh, that's great. Now, you mentioned that you used to be a facility where the women could spend the night. Mm-hmm. And that's changed. Is that just because of regulations, or it was too much to handle? Why the change?
Good question. Well, first of all, we had to make a decision early on when the board started. In the state of Idaho, you cannot have minors and adults in the same facility. Mm-hmm. So there's a clear line at the age of 18. Housing minors is very complicated and involves a lot more regulation. Mm-hmm. And when we really evaluated, this is 20 years ago, but at that time there was nothing in southeastern Idaho or for miles that served women who were over the age of 18. So that's how we chose that age group. And through the years, fewer and fewer women would choose to actually want the residential piece of the program. They didn't need the housing as much as they needed the support services and the budgeting class and how to care for my baby. And we moved to Idaho Falls from Roberts in 2005, and we began to have more and more calls from families and young women that just wanted to come and meet with our counselors. And then we were able to get into 2 of the alternative high schools and provide support groups there. So the non-residential clients began to grow and grow. And we had fewer and fewer actual requests for the residential program. And there were a lot of constraints in the residential program. Our clients were required to follow family guidelines. There have to be guidelines when you're living together, and they were required to do volunteer work. We wanted them to know that everything you receive here is donated from a generous community. They needed to continue their education if they weren't done. They needed to hold down some kind of a job if all those other things were already met. And I always tell people one of the real things that was a problem is the cell phone policy.
What was that?
Well, they needed to turn their cell phone in at night, not be up all night on their cell phone, and not have it during meals. And it's a problem. These are adult women who are saying, you can't tell me what to do with my cell phone. So there was a lot of conflict. Mm-hmm. And so when our counselors would meet with each of the clients, there was a lot of conflict management. They'd be mad at the house parents. The house parents were doing their best to keep peace and help them get to all their appointments. They provided all the transportation. And as that number declined, the board of directors really began to evaluate what is the need. Now, housing is a very real need, but the kind of housing we were provided, where it's in a setting where you live together as a family and have all those family guidelines, that just wasn't as much an issue anymore. And so the house parents we'd had for 7 years, he was transferred from his full-time job to Utah. And at that time, we didn't have another client. It was just like God closed that door. We didn't have another client for 6 months ask for residential.
Oh, wow.
So
wow, that worked out then.
It did. It really did. And our counselors now say that they're able to provide more personal care and longer-term care. They develop these relationships because they're not dealing with the conflict of what's happening in the home.
Turn off your phone.
Yeah. And then the long-term relationship goes on till they're parenting their baby. In fact, we had a girl come today whose little boy is 3 years old. Just came back because she feels like we're family. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
So there's going to be girls maybe watching, women watching that are pregnant, that need help, that think, I could never walk into that. I mean, I need help, but I don't want to ask for it. And Having been there, it is very much not like a doctor's office. It's not like a psychiatrist's office. What would you say to those women that might be a little apprehensive to seek out that help they need?
Well, I feel like it's a really safe place, and I think that each young woman is offered the opportunity to tell us what it is they're looking for. We don't tell them what they need. And I think that's important because each of us has different needs. And parenting, well, pregnancy in itself is incredibly challenging, you know, and offering to just have another person. Maybe they have a strong, supportive family. Maybe their family's right there with them, but maybe they just need somebody outside of the family to be a good sounding board and to help balance some of those issues that are really emotional. And that's what we offer many times, is just the opportunity to come and let's talk about what's going on in your life and set some goals. What are your goals and how can we help you achieve those goals? And then walking with them to meet those goals. And to see the young ladies meet goals, to become good parents, to hold down a job, to finish high school. You know, the statistics, if you look at national statistics, they say that 50% of pregnant teenage girls will never finish high school.
50%?
50%. But we work with counselors at 2 amazing schools, and they work hard to get their kids through high school. And we've been able to stand with these young families, some of them, you know, married couples, that they're finishing high school and they're doing well and they're being good parents. We have a girl who just contacted us. She graduated from high school 3 years ago. So when our clients, who kind of become family, when they graduate from high school, we offer them a $500 scholarship.
Oh, wow.
And at first we thought, well, it needs to be redeemed within a year. And then we realized that's not realistic. Because if you have a new baby and you're just barely getting on your feet, maybe a year isn't enough. Mm-hmm. So this young lady, she completed our program 3 years ago. And she called us and just said, I've been accepted to a college in Montana. Is my scholarship still good? We said, of course it's still good. You know, and those are the kind of things that are amazing. So when you look at a statistic like that, I want to say statistics aren't necessarily real. I want to talk about the people and the bravery that, you know, to finish high school and to hold down a job and to push toward college. That's courageous. With a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are accomplishments that we want to celebrate. And it may take longer to get your high school degree, or high school diploma, and it may take longer maybe to get that college degree, but we believe they can do it. So those are the things we want to encourage.
Where do you see the Shepherd's Inn in another 20 years? 2038.
Oh my. Well, I'll be too old to be a part of it then. But there was a time when we wondered if it was self-sustaining. You know, if it was just my husband and I pushing it and holding the board of directors together. And I have to give a shout out. My husband is amazing, because there have been times when he was the one doing the repairs and he was the one, you know, doing it all. And he's just supported me through this. And we've waited and hoped for somebody to come alongside and actually say, well, I can write grants. Let me take on the grant writing, Tom. You don't have to do it all. And we have people now that are filling in some of those niches and are doing it really well. So we want to just keep building that so it can be self-sustaining and let the community know we're here, because the needs may change. Like a maternity home isn't the critical need right now, but we want to just continue paying attention to what's going on in the community, what the need might be, and how we need to tweak our programs so that it's meeting the needs the best it can. I hope it's still going. This is a big fundraising season for us. We have our Win the Whole Cow fundraiser and a spaghetti dinner coming up. That's our big fundraiser for the year.
So explain the Win the Whole Cow thing.
So the Win the Whole Cow this is I think our 19th year, and Melaleuca purchases the Bonneville County, one of the Bonneville County steers that some great little 4-H'er has raised. So they donate money to the 4-H'er, and then they donate the steer to Shepherd's Inn. And so if you and your family were the grand prize winners, you would win an entire freezer full of beef, processed, and then, holy cow. Wow. Wow. And we have about 40 other prizes. We live in a really generous community. And that will usually bring in enough for about 2 months of our operating expenses. Our operating expenses are pretty low. Most of us are volunteers, and as I say, the property is paid off, and so we can do a lot on a pretty small budget.
For a lot of people.
For a lot of people, yes.
Well, thank you for coming in to talk with us. This is Julie Zahn, the Executive Director of the Shepherd's Inn. She mentioned you can find more about them on their website, also on Facebook. We'll link down below. And if you are in need of assistance, call them, contact them.
Yes, please.
Yeah, reach out. They're very caring and loving, and they can probably make your road a little bit easier. Thank you, Julie. Good seeing you.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you for watching. Have a good week.